It's time to talk real pro wrestling. No, I'm not talking about Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, John Cena. We're talking actual wrestling with actual wrestlers. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of StaleMates. I got a very special video today. The thing that we're going to talk about today is, can there be a professional wrestling league in 2020? I believe yes. And I believe that the answer to this is actually an answer that we've already had. It was already a thing back in 2004 or 5. There's been plenty of other people that have tried it in different formats in different ways, and I believe this is the one. If there was a little bit tweaking and they redid it, I would be on board, which I would be on board for anything. I would, at this point, I think there's a lot of opportunity for a professional wrestling league when it comes to the talent level that we have nowadays. A lot of the guys, go the Olympic route where there's only so many spots. It's a very limited thing. So there's only a few lucky guys, or not lucky, but you know what I'm saying, that are able to compete at the Olympics for the U.S. And of course you have, the alternates, the backups and whatnot, and the training partners. But I think there's still a very, very deep talent pool to be able to fulfill a professional wrestling league. I was kind of doing a lot of research trying to, look at some of the past ones and which ones have failed and, which ones have done all right. And I came across the Real Pro Wrestling League or whatever. I don't think it was called league, but I came across Real Pro Wrestling. It was shot kind of like a TV show, and they shot a pilot. And then a few years later, they actually got, their chance. They got their opportunity. They shot it, I believe, in the fall of 2004, and then it actually aired in 2005 on television on some Fox Sports related affiliate. According to the research that I've done, the ratings were actually not bad. They were pretty decent. And if you look at the guys that were actually wrestling in this, it was a good talent pool. Chris Bono, King Mo, Daniel Cormier, Aaron Simpson, Brandon Eggum, I believe. Let's see some of the notable names. Joe Warren. So the talent pool was there. They had 8 teams, 7 different weight classes. So every single episode was kind of airing out the whole tournament except for the finals. So the beginning of the episode, they would do, the introduction to the wrestlers of the weight class that you were going to see in that episode. And then they would show highlights of the preliminary rounds, like just kind of a speed thing, whatever. And then they would do the semifinal matches, and they would show the entire semifinal match. The last episode of the season was the season finale where they had all the finals matches. The winner of each weight class would get $25,000. So that's kind of incentive for these guys, right? In order to get the fans to care, they have to know that the athletes care, that the wrestlers care. And in order to get the wrestlers to care, is to put something on the line for them. $25,000 is not a little amount of money, especially for these athletes, whether they're coming out of college and whatnot. Even in today's world, $25,000 would be, a good amount of money. A couple of things that I really like that they did was, I like how it was shot. It was shot like the stadium or the arena thing that they had was awesome. It was like gladiator style. The crowd sat in like a circular area, and then in the middle was a mat, just like a traditional wrestling mat. Production level was really high. They had really good, background stories on these wrestlers, kind of gave an insight to their personal life and whatnot, their background on their wrestling, so we could see, who they are and where they came from, where they went to college and whatnot. Everything from the production standpoint was anything like you would see, like, back in the day, whether it be American Gladiators or anything like that. So the whole format thing that I like how they ran it like a tournament. So a lot of the other professional wrestlings that have tried and failed were more of like a duel style. I am a big fan of dual meets. I'm a big fan of, college wrestling. People talk about whether or not they should try to emphasize dual meets, whether to make them more important or not. I think that it should be more important. If I were to change anything about this Real Pro Wrestling League, I would keep the tournament format, but in order to make those teams really matter, I feel like they could also do, duels, which is, gonna cost more money. And I should preface saying all this by, I am not a businessman. I'm not trying to give you answers for the logistics. I'm just saying, this is all like saying, like, as a fan, what I think and what I think would intrigue me and intrigue other fans as well to watch, which is, at the end of the day, the goal in all this is to get as many viewers and eyes as possible on the sport. But with that being said, if they wanted to have the whole team aspect, right, because there was 8 different teams from all over, they could also do duels. But I think the most important part should be the tournament where the wrestlers are going to win the 25K. Or if they only want to do the tournament, they should just drop the whole team aspect. Or they could just kind of run it like the UFC and in the MMA world, where there are kind of teams, but there's not really team standings. It doesn't really matter. The team is basically where the guys train. So like kind of like an RTC nowadays, where you see these guys kind of declare that they're moving to different RTC. You see like Thomas Skillman going to Penn State. You see like Alex Derringer going up to Michigan. So it's kind of coming that way already. So I like how the thing was shot. I like the production and everything. The talent level was awesome. The winner takes all prize money is a great idea. You're actually seeing that nowadays in the MMA world with the PFL, the Professional Fighting League, where the winner gets $1 million. Another thing that they were kind of ahead on their time was the TV challenge. So this is 2004. I don't even know if football was doing TV challenges at that time. So some of the stuff that I would change, that I would kind of tweak, so you got to keep in mind this was shot in 2004, 2005. So this TV show was shot more like a TV show. It was actually filmed in the fall and aired in the spring. Now, 2004, the internet was around, but it wasn't as, in your face it is today, especially with, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all that. So one thing in this article that I was reading about was it said like they did a really good job of keeping everything under wraps in that time being. I imagine they had NDAs. In today's world, I just don't see how they would be able to do that. And I think it should be shot more, week to week, where it was live, whether it be on Sundays, Saturdays, Fridays, Thursdays, whatever. It was shot live, week to week, and this week was 225 pounds, the next week was 133 pounds, but it's shot live, and that way tune into the stream or whatever and watch it. Another thing they got to get rid of is it had a very I did say that the production was awesome and everything, but they did have a very, very cheesy, over the top crowd cheering noise just like the entire time, which it's funny because if you actually watch the footage, you can go on YouTube and watch these matches, there's really the level of noise from the crowd doesn't match the amount of people that were in the stands or on the set. They shot it in LA in a movie set or a TV show set. I don't think, like back in the day, you could kind of get away with that. You saw a lot of the sitcoms and whatnot do that kind of thing, but like in today's world, you got to keep it real. Something else that I think they should change was they had a very interesting rule set. It seems like anytime we try to do a professional wrestling league, we change the rules so much. We are the only sport where we try to do that, right? So like in college football, the rules don't really change that much from college football to the NFL. And same with the NBA, they don't really change that much. Now there's little things like in, college basketball, there's halves compared to quarters, but that doesn't really change the integrity of the game that much. Same with the NFL, like, the overtime rules are a little bit different, 1 foot in bounds, 2 foot in bounds, but the integrity of the game, the integrity of the sport is pretty much the same. And that's why I think they translate so well. And every time that we try to do a professional wrestling thing or any sort of, whatever, we change the rules so much. We try to combine freestyle and folk style, and as somebody who follows the sport pretty closely, I would say, it always made me feel like it wasn't legit. It kind of felt more like the NFL and XFL, where it's like if somebody like me who follows the sport really well, if I don't even know the rules, how is the common guy that's just flipping through the channels gonna know? As hardcore wrestling fans, a lot of people prefer freestyle over folk style, but if you look at the numbers and whatnot, and this has a lot to do with colleges and the NCAA and whatnot, but the viewership has always kind of been on folk style. Freestyle kind of seems more of, more for the insider a little bit, more for the true fan of the sport, because one, it's in the off season. So if you're watching wrestling in the summer, you got to really love it. But I feel like because it's, in the US anyways, it's in our school systems, from when we were kids club to junior high to high school to college, it's always been folk style. So the amount of people that know the rules of folk style compared to freestyle is way more in folk style. In my opinion, what I would change in this, I would personally keep it folk style or freestyle, but don't do some sort of hybrid of both, which seems to be the case a lot of times. And I'm not saying you can't tweak something here and there. The core of the rules, I feel like, should either follow folk style or freestyle. Personally, me, I'm a folk style kind of guy, but I think too much we try to change things and it kind of confuses people. And if you're confusing your own fans, the own wrestlers, you're just losing more and more people. So I think, it should, for the most part, stay the same. Also, they had this weird thing called the bonus meter. So basically, it's like if you were the aggressor, right? It was kind of like the passivity thing in freestyle where like they try to reward the more aggressive wrestlers. So if you kind of stayed in the center of the mat, you kind of had more control of the mat, your bonus meter would go up, and they would have like a meter thing on the screen. And if you got that, you kind of got in a position where you could throw the other wrestler and earn more points. I think that's kind of weird. That's kind of hoaxy maybe, or like too cheesy, I guess. I don't know. It felt too like video game like, and I don't know. That can kind of, I feel like that could go. Just kind of stick with the traditional stalling or passivity, whatever you want to do. If I were to do it, I would kind of run it like a condensed NCAA wrestling season where, if the money was there, which is probably a big if, they could run like a smaller schedule, right? So they could have dual meets throughout the year, just a few, not, you don't want to burn these guys out and whatnot, especially if the money's not quite there. And then they have, the big, like nationals, they have the big tournament at the end of the year where you can become the champ. I feel like in order to have any sort of professional league that is going to make it, you got to keep it as similar to what we already have in the NCAA wrestling, So yeah, I think that there's plenty of talent pool nowadays for this to happen. Wrestling talent that kind of goes to waste because whether, a lot of, these guys that either go to MMA or they go the Olympic route, well, like the MMA world is such a specific person. Like you got to want to punch somebody in the face or be willing to get punched in the face, which a lot of people don't want to do. I don't blame them. I don't either. Then there's the Olympic route, which is such a limited thing. Only so many guys get to go to, be on the world team or Olympic team. If there's this professional wrestling space, these guys have the opportunity to make a little bit of money and continue wrestling. And there could be the Olympic style guys and then, your professional style guys where, which is, I think should be more folk style. If you haven't heard of this, I definitely encourage you to go on YouTube and check it out. Real Pro Wrestling. They have a couple of the matches on there. You can kind of see how it's done. But I think, in my opinion, this is by far the most successful or the most potential for success. The founder of this, Matt Case, actually did an interview with thewrestlingmall.com where he says, and I quote, Toby, which is the other co-owner, Toby Willis, and I both still believe a league can succeed in today's age of TV and media. There's a possibility that anything can succeed with the right ingredients. However, it takes a ton of work and more specifically the right contacts. RPW looked great. We packaged the best of what wrestling has to offer. However, if you don't convince the right people, it doesn't matter how good it looks. From the overall standpoint, the way that it was filmed, the talent level, the format, prize money, that's the most important part. In order to get the fans to care, you got to make the wrestlers care. In order to get the wrestlers to care, you got to pay them well, or you got to put something on the line for them. So I think that there can be a 2020 version of this, just a few tweaks and everything. And again, these are all my opinions. I don't even really know what I'm talking about. I don't know anything when it comes to the money side of things or the logistics or anything like that. I'd love to see it make a return. With the coronavirus, who knows what's going to go on, in the college world. Football makes a lot of money. We don't even know if we're going to have a football season, which then these schools are going to lose a lot of money, which is going to hurt a lot of programs, not just wrestling, but, track and swimming and everything else. So you never know. This could be the perfect time for this. I'm not the guy to do it. So just take any of my stupid, dumb ideas and feel free to run with them. I'll be the first guy in line for season tickets. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe and all that jazz. I believe we have somewhere around 80 subscribers. We're trying to get to 100. We're going to do a special giveaway once we get to 100. Like us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at StaleMates Show. Email us at stalemateshow@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, everybody, and stay tuned for more content.